Have you ever thought about keeping cherry shrimp? I've been keeping cherry shrimp for a little while now, but I haven't really taken the hobby as seriously as maybe I should have. My goal ultimately, I think, would be to keep like boa shrimp, like the top caridina, but I'm starting out with Neocaridina, which are like your cherries, and I've set a few tanks up so I can selectively breed because I want to learn how to do. Well, my goal is to get into high-end shrimp and have a go at them. I'm starting out with some basic shrimp and learning the basics and figuring out what works for me and stuff. So I've started out with cherry shrimp and I've grown quite a big colony in this. It's a 300 litre tank. I've also got a little colony of blues in this tank. There's probably about 50 in here, whereas there's probably about 200, 300 maybe in the other tank. So what I have been doing recently is I've been doing like a lot of research on Neocaridina shrimp. I've been learning all the basics I can and everything I can find, I've come across, I've been studying. Now what I've done is I've set these 3 tanks up and I've set them up in a way that I want to try and breed to raise the level of genetics in my shrimp. So what I've done is set these tanks up about a week ago. Now I use sponge filters from highly mature aquariums and set the tanks up with these and let them run for a week without anything in. And then what I've done is I've taken 10 reds, 10 of the best coloured reds I could find out of my big tank, and 10 of the best coloured blues I could find out of my blue tank. Now what I've done is I've salt dipped them just in case there's any fungus or parasites on them that I'm not aware of. I want to start off with really good stock, the best I can, if you get what I mean. So these should be like red cherries as opposed to Bloody Marys. I've been doing a lot of research on genetics. So what I've done basically is set the tank up so I can empty the whole tank and get in there if I like. I haven't set it up complicated, like you see complicated displays and stuff. I've done it as simple as I can so I can empty it so there's just the sand and the shrimp if needs be, and then I can get in there, get the shrimp out. So what I'm thinking of doing is breeding the colonies out. Now from what I've read, there should be like 30 shrimp, new shrimp every month in the tanks, depending on how many females lay and how many shrimplets hatch. So what I'm going to do is just, as they mature, I'm going to try and keep like the best and treat these as my A grade, and then the other tanks I'm thinking of tidying them up a bit and keeping them as my B grade, and then any like wild types or anything that are thrown, I'll get shut of them out of the system. I'll probably put them in one of my planted tanks because I like to use them as like cleanup crew in my planted tanks. Because what I do is I like to set up like Wallstad method data tanks where you plant it up and then you leave it to mature. Now what I could even do is put some like of me bees, say like 50, 20, something like that, bees into the tank, let it mature for a year, and then hopefully I'll have a couple of hundred shrimp that I can add to me, restock me big tanks with. So for the filtration I'm using sponge filters. The plants I'm using hornwort because there's reports that when you have hornwort in a tank you won't get algae outbreaks in the tank. Now these are only 25 litre tanks. Now what I would like to do eventually is upgrade to 50 litre tanks, because apparently 50 litre tanks are a lot better for shrimp than 25 because the parameters swing a lot more in 25 litre tanks. Now I don't know whether you can see this, but right here there's little shrimplets on the tank already. Now they haven't been in here long, and there's a lot more on the sponge filters. So hopefully I'm starting a little colony, and then what I'll do is I'll selectively pick the best coloured shrimp and move the rest into my bees, as I say. But what I'm going to do is I'll put a lot of leaf litter in the tanks. I don't know whether you can see. There's quite a bit of leaf litter in the tank now. There's quite a bit of leaf litter in the tank now. This has been in water for 6 months, and the one behind it, I've boiled the kettle. I've put the leaves in boiling water and then I've added them to a tank. So that's what I'm doing with the leaf litter. I'm just kind of sterilising it. Now I've added nettle leaves. I've blanched them before I've added them, and what I'm trying to do is, because the tank is new, I'm trying to add stuff that's like low in nutrients at the moment, so I don't spike me ammonia or anything in the tank. And what I do have here is I have a third tank. Now I'm hoping to get yellows in this tank, and then I'll have a colony of reds, blues and yellows. Now what I'd like to do is, as I say, selectively breed all three colours and get the best quality shrimp I can, and then take any bees out, any culls I can put in my planted tanks, and that's what I'm hoping to do. Now this is like an idea I was thinking, so if I get 50 litre tanks and then I get into I swap from Neocaridina to Caridina, what I'm thinking is I could set the tanks up like this and then use the under gravel filter boxes, which is just a box with the thing, because I'd like to play with these first so I get the basics like dialed in, and then I can start worrying about purifying water and remineralising it. Ultimately what I would like to do is get some 50 litre tanks, set them up, get some crystal reds, some crystal blacks, some blue bolts, and then some tigers, so I've got like a variation of basic Caridina shrimp that I can start working with. But I'd like to get this out the way, and then hopefully I can use these shrimp to further fund my hobby, if you know what I mean. Like, that's something I've always, I don't know, like, but as I say, I have a lot of planted tanks. Now what I was thinking of doing is I could use these to stock with shrimp, and then the likes of these tanks here, I could use them for growing out colonies of shrimp, and then move some of them on, hopefully make a bit of profit from them, learn from them, because I love the idea, like I love the visual of big planted tanks with tons and tons of Neocaridina in. So even if I did get into Caridina shrimp, then I'd still want to keep a big colony of Neocaridina in planted tanks. I really love the aesthetic of it. But as I say, I like these wall style dated tanks. Now the parameters seem to match Neocaridina as well, so like I say, in the future what I could do is set up tanks like these, let them grow out, and then you basically plant farming. But I could also farm Neocaridinas while I'm doing it. It's just a thought. I think it's like a really cool project that I could work on. That's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm feeding leaf litter, as I've already explained. I'm keeping hornwort for plants, and then what I'm going to do is like feed them once a week with, like I fed nettles this week, I'm going to feed the pellet next week, leave her in for a couple of hours and then take her out. But I've got stuff like this that Glenn from GB Shrimp sent me, so I can feed this for whenever I see little shrimplets in the tank. There's quite a few in this tank, to be honest. So I've got these I got from GB Shrimp. I ordered them the other day. I'm going to feed one of these once a week, and then what I'm going to do is alternate it with like nettles or spinach or something that's high in calcium, so it helps them shed their exoskeleton. And I'm going to feed a little bit of protein, like frozen bloodworm. I'll just drop a little bit in, but I'll alternate it week by week so they're getting a varied diet, and see how that works out for me. As I do a bit more research, I might choose to up it, but what I don't want is massive algae outbreaks in the tank. And then what I will do is, say I feed one evening with this, leave pellets in for a couple of hours, and then I'll take it out, and then the next day I'm going to do a 10% water change. I'll take 10% of the water out, and then temperature match the water, and then I'll slowly add 2 litres I think it is in these tanks, and then 5 in the 50 litre tanks. I'll just fill them back up slowly, there's no rush, so let the parameters adjust. And that's my plan. But as I say, I'm no expert on keeping shrimp. I'm doing this so I can learn, as opposed to, I don't want to come across as condescending like I've mastered it and I'm telling everyone what to do. This is me sharing an experiment I've got going on, and hopefully let's see where it goes. Now if you're thinking of doing it, or if you just start, let me know in the comments. I'd be really interested, and sources that you've been looking at information from. These here, what I'm thinking of doing is selling them in 10s or 20s and using that to buy more tanks and more shrimp. I just think it'd be a cool side project to, you know, what I'm breeding, to swap them or sell them so I can fund more projects, buy more tanks. What I'd like to do is buy a rack and then start buying some 50-litre tanks, and then I can set some up in 50-litre tanks. And with the likes of the Bucephalandra, I've got little ideas what to do with like the Bucephalandra and the Anubias bonsai I've got in the corner there.